Period. Today I will be talking to you about the menstrual cycle, what it entails, and how it is regulated by hormones. Let's start with the basics. The menstrual cycle lasts around 28 days. Like my sister asked, which she's over here. So this basically means that the body is undergoing the menstrual cycle for almost every day. Menstruation is only a slight part of it, and the rest of it, the undergoing, is just our body preparing for menstruation or getting pregnant and having a baby. So when we women are born, our ovaries already contain all the immature eggs that we will ever make in our lives. And during puberty, those eggs actually start to mature, and that is what triggers our menstruation and menstrual cycle. And if fertilized, these eggs then will become embryos, which will grow in your uterus. By the way, vagina and uterus are two different parts. Our menstrual cycle is a maturing of our eggs, one at a time, every 28 days or so, alternating ovaries. Our cycle is regulated by two kinds of hormones. One's found in our pituitary gland, which is in our brain, the back of our brain. And then we have our hormones regulated by our ovaries, which in this little diagram, the two kind of like tennis ball looking things at the end of the uterus. And the hormones found in the ovaries are estrogen and progesterone. I'm sure you've already heard of estrogen, and progesterone is basically, its job is to help maintain the lining of the uterus, which we'll get more into later. And then we have FSH and LH, which is what I will refer to them during this video. I still need to look up what LH means, but FSH is basically follicle stimulating hormone, and I'll put what LH is up here. So at the beginning of the cycle, the FSH, or follicle stimulating hormone, is released because our eggs actually mature in a separate individual follicle inside the ovaries.
What's a follicle?
It's like a hair, for example, like a hair follicle. Did you know an egg is actually the largest cell in our body? It's the only cell we can see with our naked eye. It's as big as the tip of a pencil. Because of this, increasing levels of FSH signal to that egg that, oh, it's time to mature. It's time to start growing. And so they start to mature inside their very own follicles. And FSH reaches peak concentration on day 12 of the whole cycle, basically. And so when our egg is fully mature, the body undergoes ovulation on day 14. Now, I don't know about you, but people often hear ovulation being referenced to a lot, and we don't always know what it means. But basically, in essence, ovulation is when LH grows exponentially and reaches its peak levels. As a reaction to these dramatically increasing hormone levels, our ovaries release the egg from the follicle. This egg is then swept into the fallopian tubes with tiny microscopic hairs and swept into the uterus, where it will attach the lining if it's going to be fertilized, and if it's not fertilized, it will eventually be reabsorbed back into the uterus. This is even able to happen. The uterus lining is prepped for the possible fertilization of an egg at the same kind of time as FSH and LH are increasing. Estrogen is increasing as well. And so it is preparing the uterus's lining for a baby by creating nurturing blood vessels and tissues. It also, along with FSH, reaches its highest concentration on day 12. So day 12 is a kind of important day. After day 12, the progesterone really does come in big time, and it is basically what it does is it maintains this lining until we realize, oh, the uterus this egg isn't fertilized, bye-bye egg, and the progesterone levels drop. Also, after the egg is released from the ovary, the remaining follicle tissue from that, because the follicle got released, it's still there, it just doesn't need the egg anymore. It just doesn't need to hold the egg anymore, so it's kind of like, what do I do? But it becomes a hormone secreting gland known as corpus luteum, or yellow body. And this yellow body releases the hormone progesterone, which is basically, like I said, what maintains the uterus's lining for pregnancy, so that it can stay thick and nurturing for a possible baby. And progesterone reaches its peak on day 21 of the menstrual cycle. And if we don't need that cycle, then the progesterone levels drop. Let's start with the basics. And menstrual cycle lasts around 28 days. And the uterus lining is shedded. The egg is reabsorbed back into the body, and the shedding of the uterine lining is considered the beginning of a new menstrual cycle.